RWBY Manga Chapter 4. Once again, we have a nice, unfortunately very short little selection this month, but it was still really cool. We got to see actually where Weiss got the scar from, which I said last time, it makes more sense, way more this way than it did in the trailer, because it was just like, she's singing, and then she's fighting, and then she has a scar, and then she's back singing at the end, so it was almost like, when I remember when I first watched that, I wasn't sure if that even actually happened, and one of the big things was like, no, she didn't have the scar at the beginning of that trailer, but she does have it at the end of the trailer, and that could easily be a mistake, because there's somewhere else where she doesn't have the scar, but she's supposed to have it. But I was like, it makes way more sense to do it this way anyway, and I enjoyed the way they did it. We got to see Weiss, and we got sort of to see Winter a little bit. It was like, there was like no detail. It was like her figure though, which was really odd because she was actually basically facing us in the drawing, but it was still just her figure and basically a kind of blank slate of a face. But it was fun. We got to see her, Weiss go up against this Grimm. Pretty cool action shots. I think they're definitely really interesting. Sometimes, I think with the action, especially for Weiss's character, I think Weiss and possibly Blake are probably going to be the hardest two characters to really tell what's happening in the action from panel to panel, because for some of the stuff with Weiss, I was like, I can't tell what angle the thing, like, because it's a giant, Grimm suit of armor basically, and then we have little Weiss jumping all over the place, and then she has like her rapid kind of dash attack, and I'm like, I can't really tell what angle. There's a specific part when she does like her rapid moves, and I'm like, I couldn't tell what was happening at first until I was like, okay, there she is, and she's dropping down, I believe, if I remember right, she was dropping down on the suit of armor while stabbing it. But it was pretty fun. I think my favorite attack, which I don't believe is actually in the trailer, because in the trailer the suit doesn't seem as big as it does in the manga. So the part where she actually lands on the sword and she's running towards it, I think that's probably the coolest one. And I love the way they did that. I'm pretty sure that's the panel where pretty much everything was kind of a bleed into the next panel. So there was one part where it was like her hair I think it was like in the middle of that page. Her hair went like all the way through that page from left to right. And I was like, that actually looks really cool the way they did it. So I really enjoyed the way that they did the action in this episode, even though some parts, it was very little, but it was just like some stuff, especially like I said with Weiss and Blake, because how fast they can move around if they choose to or need to during a battle, it can get a little disorienting from panel to panel when we can't follow the fluid motions of, like a great example, and hopefully this isn't a spoiler for people. This would be a slight spoiler, very minor spoiler from Volume 3, but there's a battle that Weiss is in where basically she uses glyphs to kind of jump around in a circle. That's about as vague as I can get. But something like that in manga form would be a little difficult to follow, I think, depending on the enemy, because it was basically just a circle. So from a top-down view, it would be really easy. But, it was just really fun to go panel to panel and be like, trying to figure out which move she's doing and stuff like that. But I still enjoyed it. It was, once again, like I said before, it's unfortunate how short the chapters are, especially because we only get them once a month, and that's like really the only bad thing about them is like they're really fun to read. Of course, I love RWBY like crazy, so it's great to have, especially now that the Volume 3 has ended, it's great to have a source for RWBY, even though it's once a month, and even tinier. It's almost as much as it's like having that 4.5-minute episode from Volume 1 every month. That's what it's like, because it's only like 19 pages. And I was like, oh, this seems like it's getting to the end. I hope it ends up being like 24 pages or something, which still isn't that much. But I was like, I hope it's a little bit longer, and it still ended at 19. But still really a good one. I certainly enjoyed the way they did it, and Weiss's action through it, kind of getting to see see Winter just a little bit, and getting a little bit more intel on Weiss and how Winter being gone was sort of a big reason to have Weiss stay around, because her father really needed her a lot more because her sister wasn't really there to help out so much. I'm assuming, considering they're in Atlas, her sister was already possibly with Ironwood, kind of in the army and everything like that. So even though she's still in that part of, you know, their planet, basically, like she's on that continent, she still wasn't really around because she's doing, you know, the whole army thing, which can easily happen if, you know, if you're in the army, you get taken away for stuff, even if they are in an era, you know, of peace. So I thought that was definitely really cool how they kind of explained that, and I like the fact that Weiss fought back. It was like, don't try to, you know, use my father to manipulate me into staying, because that's not really gonna work. Even though he might actually need me, I still kind of have to live my own life. I can't live a life only for him, which is basically what she'd been doing, you know, her entire life up until that point when she finally decided to leave. So I like what they did with that. I certainly enjoyed it. Definitely a great ending to the manga, and then we have, you know, the next chapter is going to be for Blake, which I'm very excited to read, because when they first introduced the characters, Blake was my favorite out of the team, but it's super biased because she's the ninja character. But still, she does have probably my favorite backstory, because of how tragic it is and how, you know, her past still haunts her, because, you know, it's Adam who's still alive, and technically with Yang it's the same thing. Once again, hopefully that's not a spoiler, but I think I've already explained you probably shouldn't be reading this anyway if you haven't seen the show, because it would be super confusing and pointless to read this without knowing the entire series, honestly. But I'm really excited to see what they do for Blake. I want to see, even though I know it's going to focus a bit on the trailer, definitely a lot what they did with Weiss. Although I think they definitely had a lot to interpret there because of the way they did it, where she's singing in the concert and then poof, she's fighting a suit of armor. There's definitely a lot of ways to kind of write around that and make it flow like just a normal story. But with Blake and Adam, you know, for her trailer, that was just a story in itself. So I'm looking forward to getting some backstory, but I feel like it would have to take like maybe three months or so, really, to kind of go through just, you know, that one trailer, if that's how they're going to do it. But hopefully we get some really good backstory. I'd love to learn more about her when she was really young. We only got like a hint at that really early on in the series during the Volume 1 finale, where she's like, she was kind of born into it, and she would participate in these peaceful protests. And then the former leader, I believe, you know, she said he stepped down if I remember right, but, you know, he's gone and then someone else takes over. So we still don't know who officially the leader is. They kind of make it seem like it's Adam, but it's not Adam, because in those silhouettes, there's one figure in the middle and there are two on the sides, and one of them is definitely Adam, unless it's meant to be someone different. But I'm assuming one of them is Adam, and then there's still another person on the right side, and then the main current leader. So I would love to get some information on that. But everything we've seen so far has been like Adam kind of leading. So I think they've done that because they don't really have that character yet, or that character, you know, the actual leader of the White Fang just isn't meant to be introduced. It could also be in a totally different part of the planet, because I'm assuming the White Fang have more than, you know, they're in a lot of different places. Like, they aren't just at, you know, in Beacon and stuff like that. So I'm sure they're in a lot of parts of, you know, the world. So I'd love to get some cool backstory on a really young Blake and how she grew up, and getting to meet the former member or former leader of the White Fang, and maybe seeing when Adam joined, because that I think would be a really cool aspect as well. If Adam was there before Blake was there, and he may have been a good guy, because she mentions in one of the episodes, which was in the current volume, it started off, you know, him kind of going towards the path of being a villain, started off with him just having little accidents here and there where people would get hurt and stuff like that. It starts off as accidents, and then it was just, that's what he did. He was a bad guy. So I'd love to see that very slow transition from him, you know, maybe as a young guy, teaching her when she joins the White Fang, and then getting maybe manipulated, or kind of just following the path that he always wanted to follow, if he was always just had that within him. And then the new leader comes in and it's like, screw the peaceful protests, let's just fight and stuff like that. And then maybe that's where Adam, you know, ultimately had his big switch, because so did Blake. Technically, she was involved with it until, you know, her trailer, and it's like they would have killed all those people on that train. So I would like to see that. I'd love to see a young Adam. I'd like to see, you know, get to know the former leader of the White Fang, or the new leader. Either one I'd like to see, because we don't know either of the characters. And like I said, I don't believe the former member is actually dead. I don't believe he died, but I can't really remember because it was volume 1. I haven't. It's actually only been like a month since I watched that episode. Oddly enough, not even a month. I think I watched it earlier, but I can't remember the exact line. I'm pretty sure she just said he stepped down though. But next month we will be getting Blake, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also really excited to see what we get from Yang's storyline as well, because we did get a good backstory from her already, of her as a child and kind of how she's related to Ruby and their official relationship and everything like that. So I'm curious what they're going to show with that. We might get to see more of their father, especially now with the current volume. So we might get to see more of him through flashbacks as well, which I think would be really cool. But I'm excited to see what we're going to be having, because I just, I love the universe of RWBY. I think the manga, as short as the chapters are, still really cool. And I think when those come out as volumes, they're gonna actually be kind of awesome, because it'll be like a million stories in one, because they're so tiny. You get like one volume of this, one manga volume of this, and it's only like 19 pages per chapter. It'll be like a million stories per volume, because it's like 200 pages. So that's actually kind of cool when you think of it that way. But having to wait month to month is just crazy. But definitely looking forward to getting some more info on Blake. Of course, want to know what you guys thought about this chapter, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, with us getting Blake as the next character focused on in the manga, I definitely want to know what you guys want to see from her backstory. If you guys want to see young Adam, former leader of the White Fang, current leader of the White Fang. I doubt we'll get to see the new leader. We might get to see the old leader, because they might be saving the new leader as maybe another future villain or something like that, and possibly whoever the third silhouette was. Probably the same thing for them. But I think getting to see the old leader is a high possibility, because of the fact that that person's not involved anymore. I think it's a great way to introduce us to that character. But I want to know what you guys think we're going to get to see, and what you want to see for Blake's manga chapter. So like I said, please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.